first votes. One of those congressmen joins us now, Representative Allen West, our friend from Florida. Good to see you, Congressman. Thanks for being here. Feels kind of weird calling you congressman instead of colonel, but we'll deal with congressman. So how important was the repeal of Obamacare as a reason that voters sent you to D.C.?
Well, it was hugely important, David, and it's a pleasure to be with you because it was one of those basic core issues that the American people and the people of Congressional District Florida sent me up here to take a stance against. And, you know, it was so interesting listening to the debate going back and forth, but there were a couple of really interesting facts that no one talked about. And that first thing was that none of the Democrats ran on Obamacare in the 2010 election cycle. And the second thing is if Obamacare was really that great, why is it that 222 Democrat-leaning organizations and special interest groups have asked for waivers?
Well, that's a great point. There's so many waivers. Of course, 90% of those waivers are given to friends of the Democratic Party, so it's kind of like tossing bones to their friends. But do your Tea Party colleagues, I guess they're about half of the new members had some affiliation with Tea Parties, are they in lockstep on this issue as well?
Yes, they are, and I think you saw that with the vote. I think the end number was 245 yays, so you had the entire Republican conference, and I think you also had 3 Democrats that came over to vote along with us. This is a huge thing, and you talked about it. It is an economic issue. It is a jobs issue because the small businesses are laying people off of their health care plans or they're putting them on part-time, and that is really going to affect them. And when you look at the fact that there is a statute in there that says you have to stay under 50 employees, we want our small businesses to grow. We don't want government to come in and try to restrict their growth.
Now, Congressman, we just put up a picture of some of the Democrats who actually voted for repeal. You're kind of new to the business down there, but have you spent enough time talking to Democrats to know whether or not they're more leaning for repeal than there were?
Well, I haven't had that opportunity, and I don't really know. But I think when you look at the fact there were a lot more Democrats that voted against that bill back in March of last year, but a lot of them fell prey during the 2010 election cycle, so they aren't here. I believe that the goal was to try to see if we could get 6 to 8 Democrats to come across and vote with us. The reason why we only had 3, that's only known to them.
By the way, you used to say before you went to D.C. that you were going to try to join the Black Caucus if you were elected to Congress. Have you tried? And if so, are you trying to persuade any of those members to go your way on health care?
Well, the thing is, I was sworn into the Black Caucus on the 5th of January. As a matter of fact, today we had a luncheon with the entire Black Caucus. The health care vote did not come up, but I think that what we have to start understanding is we all want to get to the same ends for the American people, to restore our economic prosperity, to get Americans back to working, to take this 9% unemployment and bring it down to maybe 4.5 or 5. So I think that as we continue on, my working with the Black Caucus and being on the small business community, we will be able to come up with the right and viable solutions.
Now, the Senate, of course, Harry Reid, as we mentioned, does not want to bring the thing up for a vote. I think it's because of the fact he doesn't want to force members to vote for Obamacare twice. They were hurt hard enough the first time. Any word about whether Republicans are going to force the issue? Have you talked or heard from Mitch McConnell on this or John Boehner?
No, I have not, but we did have a conference meeting this morning, and I believe the Speaker Boehner will talk to the Minority Leader of the Senate, Senator McConnell, and to force them to bring that up to vote, because this is not a symbolic measure. This is a very important step. And if Harry Reid is very confident of it not being able to pass, then he should bring it up to a vote.
Mitch McConnell, I was searching for his press release. He says that House GOP kept their promise and the Senate will soon follow suit. Are you in the House going to do everything you can to force it? Because not all Republican senators are going to try to force Harry Reid to call for a vote. Are you going to try to force your Republican colleagues in the Senate to do that?
Well, I think that's an important part of it, but I think it's also up to the American people to do the phone calling and to go over and talk to those Republican senators and make sure that they follow through and understand that this is something that is the will of the people. In March of 2010, we saw that the House of Representatives and the Senate went against the will of the people. So now is an opportunity for the American people to once again have their voices heard.
By the way, Senator Jim DeMint, who's been very outspoken on the subject, has said that next week he is going to try to introduce on the floor of the Senate a bill for repeal, or it might be introduced as a rider. So there are different ways to come into this thing. By the way, in the couple of weeks that you've been inside the Beltway, have you sort of changed or modified or compromised your positions in any way?
No, I'm not going to do that. I think it's so important to stand upon the principles that got me elected, and I think that it's most important for me now to shine the light of those principles to others, because I got some calls today of union-sponsored robocalls, but you know that is not what the people wanted you to do, and so it is about standing firm on the constitutional values and principles that make this great country what it is.
Congressman, great to see you again. Thanks for coming in tonight. Appreciate it. Let's bring in our panel. Fox News contributor Andrea Tantaros, Democratic strategist Chris Hahn, and entrepreneur Jen Gruber. Well, Chris, if Harry Reid, and I had Charlie Rangel on the other day saying that he welcomed